TUA-35 Heavy, could you give me your location?
Minneapolis, we are currently heading 0.
TUA-35, turn to heading.
My God. Jesus, down. Go down.
For Flight 35,
We are going down.
it was the end.
Do not be afraid.
Or was it?
Walk towards the light.
What unusual facts have you developed in your investigation?
This crash has been crazy from the start.
Is there anything odd?
Going backwards. I'm afraid I still don't know what you're driving at.
I'm simply looking for the inexplicable. I usually find it.
You're endangering a project that's bigger than you can imagine.
I know damn well we can't change the past.
Time travelers. They don't want to be found.
And you're from the future.
About 1,000 years. Sherman, send the gate.
Once in 1,000 years comes an adventure like this.
We've been expecting you.
Millennium.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It Could Have Been a Classic. And today we're going to be talking about 1989's time travel film Millennium, starring Chris Christopherson and Cheryl Ladd. So Millennium is taken from a book written by John Varley. Started work on a screenplay in 1979 and released the expanded story in book length form in 1983 as Millennium. So this was a book in the beginning. The film was directed by Michael Anderson. We've also got Daniel J. Travanti from Hill Street Blues in it, Al Waxman. There's quite a few stars in this. Now I do like it. Basically it's like Convoy meets Charlie's Angels. And they team up and save the world, but not really. So the plot is, in 1989, while on its landing approach, a commercial airliner is about to be struck by another plane from above. The pilot struggles to control the plane while the flight engineer checks the cabin pressure. He returns to the cockpit yelling that everyone is dead and the corpses are burned. In comes Bill Smith, Chris Christopherson. Investigates the accident. He and his team are confused by the flight engineers on the black box from the plane, as there is no evidence of the fire before the crash. Meanwhile, theoretical physicist Dr. Arnold Mayer, played by Daniel J. Travanti, Daniel J. Travanti, the physicist, he suspects there's something going on with these plane crashes. Now it's sort of interesting because Millennium is a weird film. They do try to do something different here, and for some reason the story stands out. It's nothing new, but there's something interesting about the concepts of this film. Basically, 1,000 years in the future, mankind's dying and they need to save the race. So they're taking people from accidents from the past so they don't affect the timeline. But then certain things go wrong and we get something called time quakes. And Chris Christopherson, now the interesting twist in this film is that Chris Christopherson was a child on a flight in 1963 and he remembers Cheryl Ladd's character from the future, Dina Baltimore or something she's called. And then we jump 30 years later and he's investigating crashes, but he's been in denial. He meets her because when they go on board this plane, they leave one of the weapons behind to stun the passengers with, and it all goes wrong, and the time quake goes into the future. But on this flight in 1963, this physicist found the device as a kid, and he's had the device since. And Chris Christopherson's investigating. He gets to meet her. She's trying to get her device back, and it's all kept quiet. And there's things like they find like the watches on board the plane. They survived. What's after crash? Digital watches are going back. That's because of quantum interference. And then there's a lot of running about, and he falls in love with her from future, and then we see the future, and the future's very dystopian. It's just falling apart. And people, it's like they get the best food to go back and to make the world, like, you know, save people, and then so they can start having children. Now in the book, they're sending them to another planet. They're taking them from the past and sending them to this other planet, but the human race is dying. Now in the book there's been 19 nuclear wars and all kinds of stuff. The book seems quite interesting actually. But in the film it is Chris Christopherson, they're watching him from the future. He knows he's being watched, nobody believes him. And he goes and sees Daniel J. Travanti's character, the scientist. And what happens is he's saying, look, it could be time travelers, and he goes into like the bits about it. And she appears, you know, and she says, look, I'm from future, you need to give me that back, because if you don't give me it back, we're all going to get fucking wiped out. And Chris Christopherson says, look, I want to go with you. But the physicist, Daniel J. Travanti, picks up the weapon and accidentally turns it on and kills himself. So she has to run back to the future. The big temporal time quake is on its way to wipe out reality on that timeline. So he follows her into the future. He's stunned. I mean, it's like some... Now the sets are quite interesting, very disco, very edgy, post-industrial dystopian future. And he's there, and basically it's the end of them. This super time quake's on its way. It's coming in, and he stands there, and they said, look, we're going to have to send survivors to this other place or to another. It never really explains where they get sent to. They send hundreds of people into the vortex somewhere else. Now we know at the end they end up on some planet, and the android's voice going, this is the end, but it's the beginning. You know, trying to get deep and meaningful film. They just go somewhere, and that reality gets destroyed. It ceases to exist. But they jump either to another planet or a timeline. Never explain. A bit annoyed about that. But this film is rather interesting. Now, I've not seen this in about 20 odd years, and I caught it on YouTube, and I watched it the other day. Now I remember this. It was always when you in VHS days, when you rented the tape, they always show like this would always advertise. You remember trailers you used to get, you know, and it flopped at the cinema big time, and it went straight to video, and that's how I don't think this was released in the UK, and it was straight to video. I remember renting it, and first time seeing it, I was very impressed. Now, and for some reason, this film still holds the story today, even though the futuristic costumes are a bit like post-punk, edgy, ridiculous, you know, but it is sort of interesting. But I have to say, I found this film held up very well, and there's something about it. It is cheesy, it is, but Chris Christopherson sort of works in this film. I can't really picture him in science fiction, but for some reason, well, he works in Blade, didn't he? But he works well in this, and I think Cheryl Ladd's a very good actress, and she's lovely, isn't she? And, you know, Daniel J. Travanti, always liked him as an actor. He's been in some good stuff. Things about this film fit into place. Alright, it is so dated, it is. But this has been quite a nice film to watch. Now, obviously, if they remade this, the concept is interesting. Taking dead bodies, dead people into the future so they don't affect the timeline. But they did this with Do you remember the film Free Jack with Mick Jagger and Emilio Estevez? It's sort of similar to that, but in a different way. They're doing it on a bigger scale, and they have to be so careful. But the futuristic world, I mean, the human race is totally fucked. I mean, they don't have long. They're trying to save the race. But surely 1,000 years in the future, they must have interstellar travel by that time. But this film, it moves along at a very nice pace. And, you know, it's for some reason, this film stands out. I don't know why. It's dated, it's cheesy, but there's something solid in this film which draws you in. It's either the cast or the story. They really tried with this, and I can sort of get it why people weren't really into it, but it does get you thinking. And I can see, like, after you'd seen this once, you'd probably go back to it, you know, to have another look, see if you can get more out of it. So I'm going to say about Millenium, you know, a lot of people give it a bit of bad brief, but, you know, I've enjoyed this film. And, you know, it's got an interesting backstory. And I'm going to put it through. Millenium, you could have been a classic. You really could have been. So that's it. Just a quick could have been a classic, and I will see you on the next video. So please subscribe, give this channel a like, and live long and prosper.